Okay, everyone, we're just about to get started now. My name is Kristen Brown. I'm the Marketing and Events Manager with the Ironside Group. Today, Greg Bonnet, our VP of Product Development, will be doing a presentation and demo on extensible visualizations. We're just about to get started now, so I'm going to pass the mic over to Greg, and he's going to introduce himself and get started.
Thanks, Kristen. Like Kristen mentioned, we're going to introduce everybody to Cognos 10.2 extensible visualizations today. And I'll try not to say that too much because it's a bit of a tongue twister. Many of you may have already heard it referred to as Rave before, so we'll probably call it that for the rest of this presentation. So a little bit about the Ironside Group before we get started. The Ironside Group is full-service IBM business analytics experts. We have you covered everywhere from information strategy to road mapping to data mining, statistical modeling, data warehousing, dashboards, pretty much everything you can think of that you could, umbrella under business analytics. We've got deep technology expertise across the entire IBM technology stack. We bring a unique blend of both technical skills and industry solution expertise, and we play a role on many projects that varies from business analysts all the way to developer or solution architect. We also provide professional training across the entire IBM Business Analytics solution suite, and we offer managed services both on-premise and cloud-hosted, again, across all of the IBM Business Analytics products. We've got regional offices across the entire eastern United States, and we service our customers wherever they operate globally, both in the U.S. and abroad. We've been a premier partner with Cognos and IBM since 1999, and in 2013 we're ranked number 566 on the 5,000 fastest growing companies in the U.S. So if anyone would like to follow me on Twitter, to continue the discussion after the presentation, you can find me at Greg Bonnet. Look me up on LinkedIn. As Kristen mentioned, I'm the VP of Product Development and also a Principal Consultant with the Ironside Group. I'm in my domain is helping to engineer a lot of the solutions that our customers use. I've been working with the Cognos Business Analytics stack for a number of years now, and I like to think I specialize in user adoption, user experience design, and also interface design. So really kind of beautifying and consumerizing a lot of the experience that we build for our customers today. If you'd like to join today's discussion and interact in real time, you can obviously ask any questions in the chat window, and Kristen will help to moderate those. We'll get to those at the end of the presentation as best as we can. You can also, if you tweet, if you're on Twitter, you can also follow us at Ironside Group. Add the hashtag IBM Rave to join the live discussion, and we'll try and respond to any questions there as well. So what we hope to address today with our presentation is, basically answer the question, what is Rave? What is this I've been hearing about? How do I view it? How do I consume it? How do I interact with it within my Cognos environment? If I have Cognos, if I don't have Cognos and I'm interested in it, I want to learn more about what the visualization capabilities are for the platform, how to administer, how to update this, and how to customize it, which is probably one of the more exciting features, is that this is a customizable, extensible solution. So we hope to address some of these key points. Today's presentation is really targeted at a broad range of roles. We hope to satisfy both kind of high-level decision makers and solution architects, as well as the in-the-trenches developers. And we'll get into some technical, nitty-gritty details in some of the presentations as well, so everybody can hopefully come away with something from this. So what are extensible visualizations? So basically, it's an all-new modular visualization engine. It's dynamic. It's visually appealing. As we said, it's extensible, as the name implies. So we can build on that. The reason we've been referring to it as a couple of different terms, the extensible visualization is the term we use for the implementation of IBM's rapidly adaptive visualization engine within Cognos BI. So the reason for that is that the Rave platform is actually an IBM cross-platform, cross-product engine. You would find Rave charts and Rave visualizations in some of the other products like Tivoli. So this is a universal language for visualization within the IBM product portfolio, and extensible visualization refers to the Cognos implementation of that engine. It's worth mentioning that this is a fully standards compliant, cross-browser compliant capability. And we'll get into some more of those details. I know that HTML5 versus native apps is a hot button issue for a lot of people when we're talking about mobile, so we'll discuss some of those finer points a little bit later. So why don't we take a look at what extensible visualizations actually look like. And what I'm going to do here is just pull up an active report. And what we have here on screen, this is a demo active report. If you've got the IBM Cognos app on your iPad, you can actually download this directly to the app. It looks beautiful on the iPad. It also looks beautiful on screen. That's the nice benefit of these active reports. They look good pretty much anywhere. And the purpose of this report is really to exercise a lot of the features of the Rave engine and show you some of the nicer, newer visualizations that we can do there. So you can see there are some nice animations and transitions as we move through the different visualizations. I can interact with these in real time and see this transition on screen. So this is a much improved, very visually appealing, implementation of visualizations within Cognos. So this is out of the box Cognos here. Obviously, there's been some work put into this active report, but this is definitely achievable for any customer out there. So we've got a lot of different options here. We see a packed bubble chart showing us value with size and color. We've got gauge charts, waterfall charts. There's over 25 new visualizations available for free download as part of this release. Network diagrams. So highly interactive, very visually appealing. It's a very exciting technology. So as I mentioned, over 25 free visualizations are available for download from analyticszone.com. We'll take you through downloading and installing one of those visualizations a little bit later on. But it also highlights a really important feature of this new capability, and that is that to add new visualizations to your environment, you don't need to upgrade. You simply can just go out to analyticszone.com and download whatever new viz is available and import that into your environment. So it's really, when we say modular, that's what we mean. And when we say extensible, that's what we mean as well. So some of the more exciting new visualization types, obviously we said the network diagram, the packed bubble, word clouds, waterfall charts, heat maps, tree maps, Gantt charts. So this is really great if you want to do any sort of kind of project management or timeline-oriented representation of your data. The Gantt chart's a nice feature. Box plots, radar charts. So some replication of the old Cognos 10 charts through these capabilities, but also a lot of brand new and exciting visualizations that were previously unattainable on the product. So where can I find extensible visualizations? I'm an existing Cognos customer. I have a Cognos implementation. Where do I have to be at to use this new capability? So as of June 2013, we saw Cognos BI 10.2.1 released. And that's where we saw the Rave capability introduced into the platform. And at that time, it was available for active reports only. So everything I showed you in that active report, you can do with the 10.2.1 release that came out in June. But what's more exciting is as of September, a couple of weeks ago, there was a refresh pack, an incremental improvement release that had a number of bug fixes, but also had a lot of new enhancements to the platform. So with that, we can now consume and author active reports across all report output types, and we can interact with those visualizations in Cognos Workspace, Cognos Workspace Advanced, and Report Studio. So specifically, what else is new for extensible visualizations in 10.2.1.1? And that's what we'll refer to the refresh pack as. You'll hear it referred to as FP1 or 10.2.1.1. It's the same thing. You can download that from FixPacks from Fix Central. It's a free download from IBM.com. You know, there've been a couple of additional incremental enhancements to the administration of the Extensible visualizations. So if you've seen, you know, 10.2.1, you definitely want to upgrade to the FixPack 1 to get a hold of all these new features and capabilities. So this might be a useful comparison for existing Cognos customers, so they can understand, well, when would I use an extensible visualization versus a Cognos 10 chart, or what are all the benefits side by side? So what you're going to see here on the left column is our EV benefits versus the Cognos 10 legacy charts or traditional Cognos 10 charts on the right-hand side. So we've got client-side rendering, meaning that those, as we saw in the active report I demonstrated earlier, that chart is rendering in real time, you know, in my browser or on my iPad. So it's very dynamic, and you can interact with it. You also can do server-side rendering. So all of your nicely formatted PDF reports, all of your governed reporting that you want to do, and you want to incorporate some beautiful visualizations, you can do that because, again, there is server-side static rendering of these images, just like the old charts. Animations, that's all new and exclusive to extensible visualizations. There are some built-in statistical functions. You can do some basic regressions and normalization functions within the EV within that paradigm, whereas in the Cognos 10 charts, you did have to use the statistics add-on to get some of those capabilities. You can extend your charts without upgrading. I think that's probably one of the most outstanding benefits of the new platform. You can customize and create new chart types. So this is going to be very exciting for a lot of customers out there who have been, wanting to expand their capabilities or address specific business needs, something that's unique to their business in terms of how they like to visualize their data. And now you're going to be able to do that. There are a few cons. You're not going to see these Rave charts in any of the legacy studios, at least for now, as far as I know. So that means Query Studio, Analysis Studio, PowerPlay Studio. If you're heavy users of the studios, you're just not going to see those there. So they're really, for now, they've just been added to the modern user experience. So your Workspace, Workspace Advanced, and obviously Report Studio. And then also, we're going to find that there are some limitations, in the current implementation. Some of the extended chart properties that you are used to being able to modify within the report authoring environment are not available for extensible visualization. We'll touch on what those exactly are in a little bit. So as I mentioned before, this may be really important to some of you out there. Extensible visualizations are HTML5 compliant. They use HTML5 canvas, and they use it when they render in HTML5 compliant browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Safari. Another nice little benefit of the latest FixPack release is you can use Chrome in both the authoring and consuming environments. Firefox is fully supported across the entire suite. So if you like to use browsers other than IE, you have support for these modern browsers within the Cognos platform, not just with respect to Rave visualizations. So with one exception, obviously, Internet Explorer has always been the exception to every rule when it comes to web applications. So for Internet Explorer, if it's your corporate standard, you're going to need to have your users install Silverlight version 5, which was the last version of Silverlight. For those unfamiliar with Silverlight, it's simply Microsoft's implementation of a kind of a Flash client-side rendering engine. Why do we have to use Silverlight? IE8 on its own is not an HTML5 compliant browser, so really Microsoft is behind the curve there. And while the more recent versions of IE 9 and 10 are HTML5 canvas compliant, meaning they can render the charts technically, they suffer from some serious performance degradation when compared to competing browsers. And so the developers at IBM did us all a favor and switch this over to Silverlight 5 to maintain the quality of the user experience across all browsers. So while it may be a bit of a pain to have your users get this plugin or push it out across your enterprise if you need to, it's really going to benefit their user experience while Microsoft is catching up technologically. And it's safe to probably assume that when that does happen, we'll see the IE implementation transition to HTML5. So for authors, if you're an author in your Cognos environment, you can create extensible visualizations in both Report Studio and Workspace, Cognos Workspace Advanced. That was also previously known as Business Insight Advanced. And you can consume in Cognos Viewer in all the output formats that you're used to seeing. Active reports you can consume in your Cognos Workspace, so you can create dashboards with extensible visualizations. And obviously you can consume and interact within Workspace Advanced as well. So for EV in Report Studio, but we'll do a quick demo in a bit to get into these details, but there's a new visualization object in the toolbox, new data container subcomponent we'll touch on. You're going to be able to modify some properties like specifying whether the object is rendered on the client side or the server side. You'll see some nice new tweaks to the user interface in Report Studio that allows you to easily resize things. And as I mentioned, there are a few caveats right now, and that's the lack of those extended property controls, which is the ability to modify your EV palette, legend positioning, enabling drill through. Some EVs have limited animation control in terms of the types of animations and transitions that they adhere to. And in general, there's just not as many modifiable properties from within Report Studio as the conventional Cognos 10 charts. And again, we'll talk about how we can work around some of those issues. So why don't we break into Cognos right now. And I'm running, again, Cognos 10.2.1.1. So everything you see here, all the demos, will be on the latest version as of the second week of September. So I'm just going to launch Report Studio here. What we're going to do is just create a very basic extensible visualization in Report Studio. I'm going to select everybody's favorite package, my GoSales query package. And I'm going to create a new blank report. So if you flip over to your toolbox, when you get into Report Studio and we scroll down, you're going to find there's a brand new toolbox object that's called visualization. It should stand right out at you. So I can drag and drop that into my workspace, into my canvas here. And when I do that, you're going to see a list of all the available extensible visualizations within your environment. And I say that because out of the box, if you went to do what I just did, you wouldn't have seen anything here. This would be an empty list. And that is because, again, this is a plug-and-play type of architecture. So your administrators are going to want to download and install and govern the different types of visualizations that are available in your environment. We'll actually cover that exercise a little bit later as well. But what I have here, I've downloaded and installed all of the available visualizations from analyticzone.com, so I see everything here. And I'm going to do I'll just select the first option here, a stacked area chart here. And again, just highlighting the capability to sort by name and date added to the system to view both a list view and a thumbnail view. These are all new features as of the fixed pack release, so you won't find these in the June release. So when I add my visualization to my blank report here, you're going to see it looks slightly different than what you're used to from a traditional chart. You have this kind of data container, a new drop zone here that's kind of hanging off the chart, and you also have your traditional drop zone here. So I'm going to do just a basic query that's order method type, revenue by order method type. And by year. And so you can drop here or you can drop directly on the chart. So once I've done that, we'll just run this report quickly. And actually what I want to do is have my order methods up here, so I'm just going to swap those two. Let's run that again. That's much better. So there we have it. We just created our first extensible visualization. Very simple, just as easy as the Cognos 10 charts. What I did want to highlight, some nice new features. If you want to view the data that's actually going to be fed into the rendering engine, the Rave engine, you can always right-click on this new data container and show container data. And that actually gives you the data, not in a flat list like you might be accustomed to seeing, but actually in a crosstab format as it's kind of fed into the charts. So it's very helpful for troubleshooting your charts or in development mode. So all of the standard kind of data formatting capabilities are still there. If I want to change the scale, notice that on my particular chart the scale was rather large. I can change that to millions. If I rerun my report, I can see that scale adjust exactly as it would have with the Cognos 10 chart. But I do want to highlight that there's, as I select my entire chart, I don't see any options here. The only thing I can really modify are my width and height. And I can also do that by, as I mentioned, this nice new capability just to drag to resize your chart. And you can see the width and height update automatically. So this is nice for laying things out very quickly. There is one other modifiable property here. Use embedded data. This is unique to Extensible visualizations. So all of your visualizations come with an embedded data set just for mock-up. If you didn't have a data set that you were able to use, or you were just mocking up a report for your users, you could check this button here and use the embedded data within the visualization. So when I do that, I get a standard kind of predefined data set here, and my drop zones disappear. So that's just basic authoring within Report Studio. So what's important is now that we have all these options, all the different visualizations that we can add into our environment, it's important that we do it thoughtfully. And a few places to kind of do some research and start to learn the best way to visualize all of your data. Definitely read up on luminaries like Edward Tufte, Stephen Pugh. From IBM, there's a whole IBM Center for Advanced Visualization. I highly recommend following up on these links that will be made available after the presentation and doing some of your homework around visualization best practices. It always helps to know your ultimate business goals before you start any development. Start with your requirements, start with the use cases. Understand what your users and what your stakeholders really need from the solution. What's the next action that they're trying to take? What's the question they're trying to answer? And how can I support that thought process with a well thought out visualization? And most importantly, don't try and reinvent the wheel. You'll find that there's going to be a lot of options here with this new platform, a lot of capabilities in terms of customization. Sometimes what's worked for many, many years is probably the best course of action. And again, this will be a kind of a takeaway everyone can use. I find this to be very helpful. I didn't create this, somebody else did here, that's credited at the bottom. But it's a very useful kind of flow chart to help you select the right visualization depending on the type of data you're trying to represent or the means in which you're trying to represent it. So again, just to kind of summarize some of the new extensible visualization specific properties. On the server side, so static on Report Studio, we'll be able to use embedded data and adjust the width and height. Not overly exciting there. On the client side, meaning when we render inside of an active report and we can enable animation, as you saw in that first demo, we're going to have a lot of kind of more advanced options. So we can control the render method, whether or not it is static or dynamic. Obviously, embedded data. We can control the clickable regions. That's an active report capability. We can control the animation effect, whether it's a smooth transition, whether it's growing on the screen. So we'll see some of those options. And again, obviously, the width and height. So what you see enabled when we do client-side rendering are a couple of the more active report or interactive specific properties. So for active reports, major change to a very common authoring technique. If you're accustomed to authoring active reports and you wanted to use visualizations, you had to, in the past, add to your report a data deck. And basically that data deck or deck was a way of animating those static charts that we created using Cognos 10. So now you're going to be able to interact directly with the Rave engine inside of your active reports. So not only does it simplify the development process, it makes it easier for those reports to develop and maintain, but it also helps to reduce the file size. So the Rave engine on its own is approximately 2 megabytes. So anytime you add a Rave visualization to an active report, you're going to see that file size bump up roughly 2 megabytes. But what's nice is every additional Rave visualization you add thereafter will not affect the size of the report in any way dramatically. Really, at that point, you're only paying for the cost of storing the raw data to build those visualizations inside of the report. So you're going to see, for chart-heavy active reports, much smaller file sizes, and we'll compound that with a lot of the improvements that were made to active reports in 10.2.1 to improve compression. So we're seeing pretty dramatic file size reductions for chart-heavy active reports. Very exciting new byproduct of these new features. So let's take a look at creating a basic active report.
So the first thing we're going to do is convert this report to an active report. We'll see the active report controls are enabled. The next thing we're going to do is change our render method from server to client side. And when I do that, you can see I have a few extra drop zones here. And this is important to highlight because what all this means, the fact that we're seeing these active report controls related with our chart as it is, this means that active report variables will interact with this object directly. There's no longer a need to create a data deck first and then drop your charts on the data deck and then interact with your data deck in order to change the chart view that's on the screen. You can interact with the chart directly. This is a very important point because it also leads to some of the major savings in active report size. So in the past, if we had 2 dimensions with 10 members each and we wanted to show a chart for every intersection of those 2 data points, we would end up with 100 charts rendered within that active report, which would prematurely inflate the size of that report and lead to some issues in terms of moving that around, emailing. So Rave is really exciting because the Rave engine itself is roughly 2 megabytes. So adding that to a report is going to increase the active report size by 2 megabytes. But for every other chart I want to add that is a Rave chart, I'm not going to increase the size of that report significantly other than the cost of actually storing the raw data in the compressed active report output. So moving to Rave is not only going to improve the user experience, but it's also going to reduce the file size. So once we have this all set up, I'm going to drag and drop a control in here and show you how we can interact with the chart directly. So I'm going to grab let's do a data toggle button bar and drop this right in here. And I want to be able to select the order method type using this button bar. So I'm going to just go back to my metadata view and grab my order method type and drop it right in here. From there, I'm just going to connect this control to my extensible visualization by selecting the shortcut icon. I want my source control to be the button bar. I want my behavior to be filter, because I want to filter the chart, not select a different band in the chart. And I want to select, again, here's my chart as my target control. So this is perfect as is. I just had to change that to filter. So once I do that, I can run my report. And what I'll see here is a nice dynamic, interactive visualization experience where I can add and remove different categories on my stacked area chart. What would also be nice is if I could maybe show some animation to smooth the transition so they're not so abrupt as I change my selections here. So let's go and play with that new property of the EV. So if we go down here to animation effect, as I select my extensible visualization, right now I'm set to none. I'm going to have a few options here: transition, fade in, fly in, grow, reveal. They all have different behaviors. We'll stick with the basic transition. I will note that it's possible that not all extensible visualizations have all animation effects available. Some effects will apply to all, some will not. It's something you're just going to have to experiment with as you develop your reports. So in some cases it's going to be an on or off type of setting and not so much a selecting an individual animation effect. So once I've enabled that to transition, we can see the effects. So as I select web only, we can see a nice visually appealing animation that is associated with interacting with the visualization.
So in terms of viewing extensible visualizations, we talked about all the same output formats you're used to: HTML and PDF through Cognos Viewer. Excel, you'll find the Rave charts will be embedded as an image, just like the old Cognos 10 charts were within Excel output. Cognos Workspace, you can interact with extensible visualization objects just like you could the traditional Cognos 10 charts, with a few caveats, which we'll speak to, and then obviously active reports, which we've just looked at. So within Cognos Workspace, you can add and interact with your extensible visualization objects. And again, those caveats I mentioned were just some limited customization within the interface. So where you normally would be able to modify the palette control or switch the chart type on the fly, those capabilities are grayed out, basically. They're not enabled for your extensible visualization. So let's take a look at EV in Cognos Workspace. So I'm going to launch a dashboard that I created using all extensible visualizations. It's a multi-tab dashboard highlighting some of the new and exciting packed bubble charts that show we can represent a measure based on the size of the packed bubbles. This would be kind of comparable to a stack bar or a pie chart in some scenarios. Doesn't work very well for many possible objects or members within a list, but it's good to represent a smaller number or just to bubble up a top 10 or a top 20. Traditional stack bar chart, we're used to that. Beautiful radar charts. In this case, we use this to show seasonality over time. So we can see that camping equipment sells better in June than it does in December. When we interact with our extensible visualizations in Cognos Workspace, it's worth noting that by default, those animated transitions are not there. So I can enable those animated transitions, and I can do so by embedding my active report within a Cognos Workspace. I'll show you that in a minute. Some of you may notice that Workspace looks a whole lot like Cognos Insight, the desktop tool. That was by design. This is all as of the latest fixed pack release in September. So you'll see this new skin for Workspace in that latest release. Here we have a tree map, which is great for showing hierarchies or groupings of different relationships in the data. So I have my products grouped by product line and product type, and I can use both size and color to represent multiple measures. So in this case, size represents a share of revenue, and color represents gross profit in millions. So here I have a pretty large contributor to my both my revenue and my gross profit is my Starlight tent here. And this is a really exciting visualization to have available within the Cognos BI suite. Previously, up until now, we only saw this in Cognos Insight, so it's nice to have this in the traditional authoring environments as well. And here I have demonstrating a heat map as well as a word cloud. So the word cloud represents the appearance of certain words in a list, and everybody's probably familiar with this if you've ever seen a blog, a tag cloud or anything like that. The larger the word in the cloud represents the higher frequency of the appearance of that phrase. So here we're looking at return reasons. The most popular return reason is an unsatisfactory product. And then with our heat map, we can key in on looking at across countries within a region versus product line, and we can see the hotspots where we have more returns on items than we do in other places. So it looks like we have a lot of outdoor protection returns in Japan when compared to all of the other product lines and countries in that region. So again, another really exciting visualization type. And I'll show you really quickly. This is, again, our basic active report that we created. I'm sorry, not active report, our basic extensible visualization. But also we can, if you didn't realize, you could also embed an active report within Cognos Workspace. And in that sense, you can achieve the animation that we created before within the Cognos Workspace, but it will be as a self-contained active report. So for administrators, if you're an administrator of your Cognos environment, there's going to be some new features you want to be aware of. We're going to talk about how to install extensible visualizations in your environment, how to administer those for your users. So as I mentioned earlier, extensible visualizations are all available via analyticzone.com. So if you've never been out there, it's the same place you go to download the trial version of Cognos Insight, the desktop personal analytics tool, as well as interact and share dashboards created there. It's also now the home for all of the extensible visualizations. So you can go to Downloads and find and download new visualizations. And it says for Cognos Active Reports, that's a little dated now. This works across all the different reports. And you'll see there's, again, over 25 new options, and they continue to add more visualizations to this list and enrich the capabilities. And so if you need to download something, you can simply click on that, download the visualization, watch the how-to video, and read the documentation, not only on how to install, but also how to use these advanced visualizations if you have any question as to what sort of data sets you should be working with. So once I've downloaded my visualizations, I'm going to go to my administration console and show the Cognos administrators in the audience how we're going to interact and update and add visualizations within our environment. How do we provide governance around this for our users? And so what you'll see here is a new tab in the admin console called Library. And in here you'll find a list of all the visualizations I've already installed in my environment. So in this case, for the sake of example, I'm actually just going to delete my Gantt chart from my environment just to show you what it's like to upload and install a new visualization. So to install a new visualization, all I have to do is download the zip file. We refer to that as a viz bundle. So that zip file you download from analyticzone.com, we call it viz bundle. And from there, I'm simply going to click Add New Visualization. I'm going to browse. and I'm going to find my Gantt chart and click Open. And I can click Import, and if I'm replacing an existing visualization with its exact same name, it's all based on the naming of the visualization, not necessarily the zip file, but the underlying deployment. We'll talk about those little minute details in a little bit. But if I'm overwriting or I'm intending to overwrite an existing visualization, I should check this box. If I don't, the system will give me an error letting me know that I just tried to overwrite something. So I'm going to click Import, and I'm notified that that succeeded. I'm going to click Close, and you'll see my Gantt chart appears right here. So just like every other object in Cognos, I have full control over the properties. I can set permissions for these objects. I can control what groups can see what types of visualizations. I can provide all sorts of governance and control around my environment. If you want to federate out the ability to manage visualizations within your environment, there's also a brand new security group called Library Administrators. This is an out-of-the-box security group, and this provides you a way to allow people to administer just the visualization library within your environment. So you can let your advanced report authors or anyone you want to delegate that responsibility out to do that in your environment without necessarily having to have full administrative rights. And again, you can fine-tune that as well, just like everything else. Another nice feature is the ability to export and deploy visualizations. So if you have you're trying to manage your life cycle, you add a visualization in your development environment, create some content, you can select the visualizations and actually deploy those to your QA or production environments. So all of these features and functionalities are fully compatible with the lifecycle within your enterprise deployment. It's easy to move these things around from environment to environment via the standard content deployment method. So customizing extensible visualizations. So EV are fully customizable. So Rave itself is based on a declarative language, and there's really very few limits in terms of what we can do within that paradigm. It's continuing to mature and develop, so there's going to be, hopefully new capabilities and options coming down the pipe all the time. But as it stands today, there's a lot of options in terms of how we can customize and tweak these different visualizations to meet our specific business needs. It's worth noting that right now, if you go down the path of customizing or engaging a partner like Ironside to help you customize, officially these customizations are only going to be supported via IBM through the AVP Accelerated Value Program. That being said, Ironside provides full turnkey customization services. We've been fully trained and enabled by IBM to do this for our customers. And we can also provide you that first line of support if you want to go down that path. So obviously some of the probably hot button questions are, well, I really need to be able to control my palette, or I really need to be able to control the positioning of my legend. So I just wanted to leave everybody with a few tidbits, kind of pull back the covers a little bit and show you how to make those quick changes in your environment. So hopefully without getting too complex. What I want to show you here, first we'll start with the basic kind of process of unbundling of this bundle here. So this is the smooth stacked area chart that I downloaded directly from analyticzone.com. What I did is I then extracted that to a folder here, and the folder has the same name as the viz bundle itself. And inside there you'll find a couple of folders. some images that are the preview images for that particular visualization, some other files, a definition file. What we really are interested in here is this file here, the implementation.json. So as I mentioned, Rave is a declarative language. It's all kind of specced out in JSON, which is very similar to XML. It's a structural language designed around JavaScript primarily. So what I have here on the left-hand side is the implementation.json directly out of the Viz bundle as I downloaded it from analytical.com. And if you wanted to update your palette, let's say, and you wanted to change the colors available here, I'm just going to scroll down all the way down to this section. You can search on this keyword palette. And I will say that this is not always going to be in the same place in every file. But what I see here on my left is the original palette with many, many, many options, full complement of palette, some nice colors. And then I have, let's say, my standard colors. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors here. These are, let's say, my standard company colors, and I wanted to use those in place of the palette that was provided. It's truly as simple as simply removing this and inserting your HTML, hexadecimal color codes here. These color codes are available all over the internet. There are some great kind of palette generating engines out there for free on the internet, so if you need help selecting the right colors or complementary colors for your palettes, there's a lot of resources. If you just Google any of those terms, you'll come up with a lot of options out there. But these are your basic hex color codes. So all I need to do is simply replace in the same format these values with these values. And also, if I wanted to change the positioning of the legend to say I didn't want the legend to appear on the side where it does by default, all I need to do is scroll down to the bottom. Scroll down to the bottom of my file, and I've added this line in my customized implementation.json file. Legend position bottom. So I've added it here, added a comma, and then that line. So again, part of the reason that there isn't a whole lot of documentation around this yet is that clearly we're editing text here. It's not an ultimate user-friendly experience yet. It's still maturing, and hopefully down the road we're going to see maybe some sort of what you see is what you get, or drag and drop type of interface to interact with these things. But for now, this is the best we can do as the solution continues to mature. So those are just two really quick things you can do to modify the position of your legend and change your color palette. And then once I've done that, what I did is I saved that file. I actually took a full copy of that folder and added .custom to the end of the name. And I saved that file as implementation.json in that folder. And then the other thing I did is I want to edit in this new folder, the copy, the definition.xml. So I'll open that up in my text editor. And I just need to change one thing. And right at the top of this file, actually, why don't I open up the original? So I'll go back to the original definition.xml. Right at the top of this file, you'll see the name, chart type definition, name equals viz.sample.areachart.stack.smooth. I'm simply just going to add a .custom on there and save that. And I'll save it back to my new copy of that folder that is named with the exact same name here. And the reason I do that is just so I add this visualization as a new visualization to my environment when I zip it all back up, rather than overwrite an existing one. If I wanted to overwrite the existing visualization, I could leave everything as the same name and just modify that code and then upload it, check the box when I install it to overwrite. And then when I went and opened all of my existing reports and refreshed them in Report Studio, it would then inherit those changes. So depending on what you're hoping to achieve, you can either save it as a new name and modify your definition file as well to reflect that name change, or you can just save it as the original name and overwrite. So our results here, in lieu of going through the process of bundling that all up and installing it, just to show you, here's the changes we made. On the left is our default stacked line chart, as you'll see out of the box from analytics.com. And on the right is our custom palette and reposition legend. So simply changing the palette colors and repositioning the legend. And so a few other examples of some more customization that you can do. We had a need to create an organizational chart, so we took an out-of-the-box network diagram and modified that to show organizational structure, hierarchy, as well as represent two measures with size and value of the different organizational nodes here. On the right side, we're representing for an asset management organization, fund volatility versus benchmark volatility on a vector plot over time. So you can really, get very creative in addressing some of, again, those very specific business needs that you have that are unique to your industry, your function, or your organization. So at this point, I wanted to open up the floor to questions. And actually, Leah, I think, is on a landline now, so if you wanted to kind of hop in and say a few words, I'd definitely welcome that.
Hey, Greg, can you hear me this time?
I can, thank you.
Good. I just wanted to thank Ironside for inviting us to this. This has been great. We're always happy to see interest in our new features. You've done a fantastic job.
Uh-oh, did we lose Leah?
To let everyone know some of our goals in providing this capability, first of all, was to provide a more compelling digital experience. And especially since you saw our priority order, we started with active reports. And that's especially on the mobile device, we're kind of getting that experience in active reports, usually consumed on mobile, that people expect in that environment. And then also just allowing users to incorporate innovative visualizations without having to go through a long and onerous process. Wait for release and then wait for you guys to upgrade. And this provides you a way of getting those visualizations. You can work with someone like Greg at Ironside to create new ones if you don't see the ones you want. So we wanted to get that capability out there. Greg mentioned some of the limitations. I just wanted to assure you that we are aware of those and we are working on them. Our priority was to get you something rather than wait until we had it perfected before we gave you anything. So you are seeing it the way it is, but like I said, we are working on some of those limitations. So again, thanks, Greg. I think you've done a fantastic job of very comprehensive presenting this, and thanks again for the invite.
Thanks, Leah. We really appreciate you joining, and thanks for the insight. We're very excited about these features and functionality, and our customers are very excited about these capabilities. So we definitely look forward to all the future enhancements coming down. So as we get to some of the questions here, I'm just going to work my way through the list. Is there a decomposition tree visualization? There are full tree capabilities in terms of a rendering output. I'm not overly familiar with the decomposition tree specifically. But we can definitely, if you want to get in touch with Kristen offline, we can definitely speak to, if you have any examples or anything like that, we can kind of confirm that's something we can render within the Rave engine. The question is, can Rave render data from Cognos TM1? Yes, absolutely. Cognos TM1 can be consumed as a data source within the Cognos BI environment, and thus we can render that data within any of the BI studios we covered today. So absolutely. Can you consume Rave objects with Cognos for Microsoft Office clients? That's a great question, and I will be honest, and I have not tested that yet. Leah, do you know if that's something we can do out of the box? I don't know if Leah's on mute now or not, but my assumption is going to be yes, but I can't say for certain. That's something I could test out for you.
Hi, Greg. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. Yeah, the question was Rave objects within Microsoft Office clients, the Cognos Office clients.
Yeah. We do have an answer. I actually have Carm Janito is in the room with me, and she does have an answer for you, so I'll let her speak.
Hi, everyone. Carm Janito. I'm part of the product management organization as well. I was actually the product management lead for the 10-to-1 program. So I just confirmed that if you're using Cognos Office Connection, that you can bring those reports that have Rave visualizations into Cognos Office Connection. I think that was the question, right? Whether you could leverage.
Yep. That was the question as I understood it. So yeah, that's exciting. Great. Excellent.
Yep. Just to clarify though, that you need 10-to-1 to be able to support that, but it is supported.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
The next question was, does visualization show up in the toolbox in Workspace Advanced as well as 10.2.1.1? And the answer there is yes, absolutely. I apologize, we didn't get into the workspace interface, but I'll pop that up right now just to show you. You'll see a visualization object in there as well. And again, because Workspace Advanced and Report Studio are so cross-compatible, more or less everything that's available from an object perspective, you'll see this here. Make sure you can see it. Yep. So this is the visualization object. I can drag and drop right into here, and again, I can select all of my available visualizations right within Workspace Advanced. Is a Report Studio data container like a crosstab? Does it suffer the same performance issues as a crosstab when used in a multi-page report with master detail relationships? So yes, most charts traditionally are essentially a crosstab report, just a visual representation of that from a performance perspective. The follow-on question, I think some of those issues have been addressed with dynamic query mode and some of the performance improvements around both crosstab rendering times and also master detail relationships. So that may be a kind of a compound solution by getting up to the latest product version. Is the visualization object not available in the toolbox within 10.2.1 Report Studio? The answer is yes, it is, but only for active reports. You do have to be on 10.2.1.1 to see it across all of the different report types. So it won't show up for a standard report unless you've installed the fixed pack. There was a question around active report compression. Does decompression happen in the Cognos app? I'm assuming the IBM Cognos app for the iPad and also Android now. I don't know the answer for certain. Technically, how that decompression algorithm was implemented. I would assume that it should be done within the app, as most functions like that work in that way. So the assumption would be yes, it probably does that within the app. And to answer your question, how much delay would it add? I think that's going to be dependent on the file size, how much compression is happening. I will say that the demo report I showed was a very data-heavy, image-heavy active report. Came in around 9 or 10 megabytes, and just kind of anecdotally, the rendering time was so fast it was negligible. It came up within a second or two on the iPad app. So I definitely invite you to, if you have an iPad available, download that report. It's available as a sample report from that option, and test it yourself. And know that that's roughly a 10 meg report, I believe. Question from Crystal, can you use this with any report studio type, not just for active reports? Again, the answer is yes. If you're on Fixed Pack 1, you can use this for any report studio type. Does this change the way Cognos submits the queries for visualizations at all? And does it still submit a separate query for each visual? I think that's going to be dependent on whether or not you're doing client-side versus static rendering. Obviously, for a static server-side rendering, I'm going to assume that a separate query object will probably be submitted for every visualization instance on the page. If anyone from IBM on the phone has any information otherwise, feel free to jump in. But I do believe that will be the case still, as long as we're talking about static charts. Can we still have animation if we use a regular report as opposed to an active report? I think for the time being, the answer is no. If you're authoring a traditional report studio report, we don't see the animation currently available as an option, so we can't flip it to that. We can only choose between the rendering type when we're within an active report. And I think, again, as both Lee and Carm mentioned, that these are probably things that are being worked on, and we can hope to see some incremental improvements. May I select and import multiple visualizations? Unfortunately, no. Not at this time. I believe that's another IE limitation that we're working with. But you do have to go through the somewhat slightly painful process of individually adding the 25 visualizations when you import from the admin console, at least for now. I will say I do recommend just adding them all and then moving them from environment to environment via the export deployment method. It's a big time saver. Are there any samples, visualizations for US maps? Not that I know of at this point in time. So again, maybe we'll see something down the road, but at this point in time, nothing from a mapping perspective. Do we have a combo chart in the visualizations? Yes, I'm using a combination chart, combination bar, line, or area bar. Yes, those, I guess it's worth checking to see here if there's a combo out of the box. I've got everything installed. I don't see one out of the box, a combination chart. However, I will say that through some simple customization, it's definitely achievable.
Hey, Greg.
Yes.
It's Leah.
Hi, Leah.
I'm just letting you know that there will be a combo coming shortly that will be compatible with 10.2.1.1.
Okay.
The Rave version that's required for it is the one that's included in 10.2.1.1, so it won't be available for 10.2.1.
Okay, so more compelling reason to install that fix pack. Excellent. Can Rave be used with Cognos Insight? At this point in time, I don't believe that capability is there. I believe that visualizations within Insight, the desktop tool right now, are still the traditional Cognos 10 visualizations, with the exception of the tree map.
Hey, Greg, it's Leah again. There are a few visualizations currently in Cognos Insight that do use Rave, so there's a combination that are there in Cognos Insight. They don't consume Rave the same way. They don't consume Rave through this extensible visualization, so you can't add more the way you can in Report Studio, but there is some Rave there. Okay,
good to know. Excellent. Clarify the drilling capability. So again, at this point in time, the drill through is not enabled. However, what you probably saw was the ability to select. So just like any sort of, you can select elements within the visualization inside of an active report, or even within Cognos Workspace, you can kind of at least hover over elements to see their values. So tooltips and things like that are available, but drill through is not enabled. You could probably, yep.
Greg, sorry to interrupt again. It's Leah.
All right.
You can actually drill through from one of these reports. You have to author the drill, but it is available.
Okay. All right. So there you go. Will Ironside contribute new visualizations into the community? For example, if we ask for one to be developed, can we contribute to it? If you, I think definitely down the line, I think you would expect to see some community visualizations from Ironside. They'd definitely be available on our website, and depending on how publishing works out on Analytics Zone, it's the same type of community environment that we've come to expect there. I think think we'd see them there as well. So yeah, we definitely look forward to being contributors to the development community there and sharing our knowledge as we have traditionally via our website. Conditional style on Rave charts. Yes, so that's a yes, it can be done, but it would be a customization, and it would be done through editing the specification itself, not through Report Studio at this time. Is there a certain level of license required to utilize or consume these visualizations? No. Outside of just your basic, you need to be at a minimum a consumer. You can view these as you would with any license level. So there's nothing special. There's no add-on. It's just part of the product. Again, questions around palette control and conditional formatting. I think basic palette control is fairly simple through the customization technique I shared today. It's really just a few minutes worth of work. Just at this time, it's not something that's directly editable through the Report Studio interface. And again, the conditional formatting can definitely be done, but it's done through the specification. Is the org bubble chart unique to Rave, or can other Cognos products have access to that chart? So again, as long as your Rave is really the engine, and it's been implemented across the Cognos platform, the BI platform. So as long as we're speaking within the context of the Cognos BI environment, any sort of data source can leverage this engine to render visualizations. So, and again, this is Cognos BI 10.2.1 or higher, recommending fixed back one. How is the performance of EV against huge data? That's depending on how you're rendering. If you're doing a server-side rendering, obviously the database or the application server is going to be doing a lot of the number crunching for you. And then on the active report side, you're really limited to how much data you can pack into that to begin with. We wouldn't be loading, we're not going to have a multi-terabyte active report. So, a lot of this is going to be pre-aggregated before it's loaded in. But even in some pretty large reports with larger data sets, we've seen pretty decent performance. It's really going to be unique to your specific data set and situation. So I recommend testing that out. In active reports, can you still put a Rave object chart inside of a data deck? That's a great question, and the answer is yes. What you'd want to do if you wanted to revert back to the old authoring type for active reports, you simply add your data deck as you would have traditionally, drag and drop your extensible visualization into the data deck, but set the rendering type to server side. And essentially, you're setting it back to a Cognos 10 type of chart.
Hey, Greg, that's all we have for questions right now.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all for attending, and again, thank you, Lee and Con, for joining at the last minute. Definitely appreciate your insights. And again, we're very excited about this technology. If any of you have any questions with regards to customizing the solution, implementing active reports, or advanced visualizations for your business, definitely reach out to us, contact us on our website, and we'd love to talk to you. And thanks again.